I got a football game with 3. Other than that, I'm pretty open.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to take too much of your time. 45, 1 hour at the most, okay. Mark. I mean, that's as much as my brain can handle.
Me too.
Okay, and it's funny because my topic today. I've got a lot of topics, okay, Mark, and I could do I can do easily 20 hours with you, no problem. But what the hell? So I want to ask one of the topics I wanted to have you on ARDWULF'S channel was getting older type thing. What the hell was it? What the topic? I don't know exactly, but what I meant to say is, as we're getting older, do we get more simpler? In terms of wargaming, that is, do we? And then you seem to be the bloody exception that just shafts everybody and pulls out a game like Pacific War, and it's like, what the hell? Don't you know we're getting older, Mark? That was one of the things I wanted to talk about. But Mark, what I want to ask you is, okay, Mark Herman, you were young, okay? And I keep thinking of you with a hat, a straw, playing in the farm fields, you know, and with the stick, whatever.
You know, I'm from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of fields.
We're from Brooklyn.
Brighton Beach.
How far from Bensonhurst were you?
Well, that's basically, you know, that's all. I mean, everything's within 20 minutes of there. On the south shore there of Brooklyn.
So you must have met a lot of interesting Italian people.
Listen, when you grow up in Brooklyn, it is mostly you know, Jewish guys, African Americans, and Italians. I mean, there's plenty of other things, but in my day, that was like the 3 main, you know.
And how tough do the Jewish guys hold on to their piece of land? You know, meaning that, you know, because there's ghettos. There's the Italian ghetto. There's
I'll tell you a story. So I was a little kid, and I was at a school called PS 225, which is near where my, you know, I used to walk to school when I was in kindergarten. So, you know, as a city kid, you know, you get up, and the schoolyard was broken into corners, and one of the corners was the Italian kids, and, you know, the African American kids and the Irish kids. You know,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I was a little kid. The head of the Italian crowd was like Vinnie Barbarino, and I thought he was the coolest guy in the whole planet Earth. I don't even know his name anymore, but he was this really cool guy. And I used to see him in the hall. I used to go, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's looking at me like, "Who the hell's this little kid?" Right? So this goes on for a while. I just, you know, kind of, he just was cool. I mean, he was the height of cool to me as a little kid, as like a kindergarten kid. And one day I was playing in the middle of the yard, and a bunch of kids came up and started messing with me. You know, I was little and they were bigger, and they started pushing me around. And next thing I know, I am surrounded by the Italian kids. And the head guy sweeps them away, and I was brought into the Italian corner. And the girls, I mean, remember, these are girls. Remember, my school, by the way, PS 225 goes from kindergarten to 12th grade. Kindergarten to 12th grade. So these girls were like 18 years old. I became like their man. So I had these pretty Italian girls, you know, taking care of me and giving me candy. And everybody was very nice to me after that. Nobody ever touched me again in that school because, you know, the head of the Italian crowd liked me. And I ended up marrying an Italian girl. So I wonder what that's all about.
I was going to ask.
I don't know. But I have always gotten along famously with, you know, my Italian brothers and sisters. Brethren, whatever. Yeah, I've always gotten along with that crowd. They kept me alive when I was little, and I've always appreciated it.
So, Mark, your brain, I want to pick your brain, like the physical aspect of your brain. The physical aspect of your brain. The big question is, one, what the hell makes you so smart? Okay, and I want to know, how are you? And I'm gonna use you like an animal type thing. How are you bred? What the hell happened that made you so smart? Was it genetics? Did you have smart dad, mother, grandfather? What's happening?
my parents were very intelligent, and
What did they do?
So look,
What did they do?
well, I don't, you remember I'm 68, and the only thing I remember was I could read before I got to kindergarten. That's true, and I remember my mother telling me, when I was older, that when I took some kind of IQ test when I was a little kid, and crazy score, and they called her up special to tell her, and she told me, and I was like, okay, and that's pretty much it. So God kissed me on the forehead there, but I just always in love. Remember, I was born in a black and white world, right? So I had none of the distractions of this thing. This distraction didn't exist. And I literally, since the age, from before I can remember anything, I was reading books on, multiple books a week since I was like, 5. And so it's not a matter. So remember, I want to say smart and knowledge and knowledgeable are two separate things, right? There are a lot of smart people who just
100%, 100%.
So, genetically, I'm not stupid. I'm sure there's many people listening to this who say like, this guy's a jerk and I'm much smarter than him, and they're probably correct. That's all fine. But what they have shown, and this is a serious thing, there are papers about this. It was mostly related to chess players and musical prodigies and that kind of stuff, where anybody who puts in 10,000 hours of concentrated study on anything, it doesn't even matter what the hell it is, you become an expert. And when's the only time in your life when you have 10,000 hours that you could just spend doing something? That would be as a kid. So most people, so I put my 10,000 hours into gaming when I was a child. So by the time I got to college, I had been doing it, a lot. So it's just a matter of a concentrated passion for our hobby that got me here. It's not like I'm smarter than anybody else or more knowledgeable. I just cared more. That's really the easiest way to say it. I cared more about what I was doing. I put in all of those hours. I enjoyed all of it, by the way. That's why as a kid, you can do it. It's like when the parents are beating you to play your piano, you're a musician, right? They'll do it, but they don't really care. But if there's the kid who picks, well, you don't have to tell the kid to play the piano because all he wants to do is play the piano. That kid's going to get really good. That kid's going to make it happen. And so that's really, I think, the thing is, so I've always been, even with my own kids, I just let them follow their passions. I don't know.
Well, let me tell you the thing, Mark, the thing that you said. I put in my 10,000 hours, and look at where you are, and look at where I am. What the hell happened? What happened?
Nothing. I mean, first off, the world of music is like big. The world of wargaming is small. So it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to have an impact in wargaming. It isn't freaking. I mean, I was watching. I guess when they did the Beatles did their last.
Let It Be.
No, it's when they did their last album. When they played on the rooftop of Apple Music. I forget.
That was Let It Be. That was Let It Be.
So when they did the Let It Be album, they filmed it, and apparently it was recently released. And I watched. There's a scene that just blew me away. Most memorable. I watched the whole thing, but the most memorable scene to me was Paul McCartney. It's early in the morning. Clearly, John Lennon's not there yet, and Ringo is clearly already been drinking. And Paul is still having his coffee, trying to figure out where he is. They're all kind of just, and Paul just starts playing a guitar and a beat, and he just starts humming words and starts singing words. And he literally, in 5 or 6 minutes, there's a song happening in real time. I mean, this is like in instant time. And all of a sudden, Ringo kind of goes, ugh, and he just starts going, starts slapping his hands on, starts playing drum beat. And then all of a sudden, Harrison kind of goes, oh yeah, maybe I should pick this guitar thing up. So he picked up his guitar, and the next thing you know, they write the song. It's the theme song, and I'm just going like, so that's, I don't know what the heck that is, but it was just
what it is
to see it.
It's skill and talent, but a lot of it is the 10,000 hours.
Right, but the point is that he had a process that's his process, and they had a process. You could almost see them like. Once he got to a certain point, they all said, "Oh, this is part where I'm supposed to do something," and so as you could see this kind of well-honed reaction to their method, and it was just amazing to watch. And and I have a method. I'm writing a book about it now, and You know, I've been, and again, it's really a rewrite of all my columns in C3I, because I've been, that's what why I did the column, was so I have a place to start to put my thinking about what I do on paper. And, you know, and I have an audience of 4 that I'm writing for, so it'll be good. Well, no, I mean, specifically my grandchildren. I'm writing this book for them, actually. There's 4 of them, but I had a 4th grandchild on December 28th. So I got 4 grandchildren now.
Now, when Mark Herman was in school, what class or what subject ticked you off and said, this wargaming or this strategy stuff is fun, I want to get into it? And how old were you? Well,
so I would say that, I mean, I always liked history, but that wasn't the motivation. So when I was 6 years old, it was 1960, right? I was born in 1954. And you might recall that 1960 is a big centennial anniversary in the United States for the American Civil War.
Okay.
And so remember, in a black and white world, all of a sudden, TV has things about it, you know, that I saw, and there were books came out, and there, you know, so there was a lot of material became available, and particularly this book by the American Heritage called the Civil War. And I got a copy, you know, I took it out of the library, and then ultimately somebody gave it to me for a birthday present. And it's got these amazing maps in it of battles with but drawn like miniatures battles. I always forget the name of it, but I have it here somewhere. But you know, the book is up there somewhere, but you can find them easily enough. And these maps are very famous. And those maps were really the sort of like, I could see, you know, this inspiration of gaming was kind of built around that. So it wasn't school. I mean, I liked school, and I always, and you had to know my father. My father was like a big deal about education. So and as his oldest son, you know, he wasn't brooking me not getting, you know, like doing my homework. You know, this is like, again, lovely man, great father, but he was definitely serious. And I wasn't one to cross him. So I never did, you know, he said to me, you're going to study and get your homework done. I just
studied and did your homework.
Just do what I was supposed to do. Yeah. And I tried that with my kids. It didn't work, by the way, but they came out great, by the way, but it just didn't work. But with him, I responded to that. My brother, I had another brother who it didn't work on. So I'm like the only one it ever worked on, probably. But yeah, I put a lot of hours into studying, and, you know, got good grades more or less, and, you know, moved forward in my life. But it was the centennial of the American Civil War that really,
Christ, and it was only 100 years ago then. God,
what?
It was only 100 years ago then. I mean, that's ridiculous how close that is, man. Well, unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of at the 150 mark, right?
That's unbelievable.
No, we're more than 150. We're getting towards the 175th mark, you know, I guess, really more likely.
Let me ask you something, Mark. Are we deluded enough to think that this will never happen again?
You know, I you know, I feel like I've been watching history. I mean, I got to experience, I mean, right now, just so you know, I'm just getting, I'm asymptomatic now, but I had COVID just this last week, and I still test positive for my wife for the first time today. Almost 10 days later, just tested negative finally. So I know about, she gave it to me. So I'm about 48 hours or so behind her, but I could be testing positive for a while. So, you know, we got through like the black, you know, the Black Death, right? You know, millions of people worldwide from this horrible thing. And so when you say to me, you know, can this happen again? I think anything can happen again. I mean, you name it. I mean, the viruses are getting, and I feel like this season in particular, there's like new viruses coming up all the time.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that even just dying of old age now is a little less certain than it was, you know, a couple of years ago.
And is this the first time you got COVID?
You know, it's a good question. I might have had it before anybody knew COVID was in the country. I came back from California on January 4th, 2020. And that was before anybody announced that it even existed. And I was sick, and Carol was sick, and my kids where I left were sick. And my daughter lost her sense of smell, which was weird at the time because nobody said anything. And then we went to the doctor. They said, you know, it's a weird flu going around. And then my wife was sick, much sicker than I was, but we got over it. We obviously didn't die and go to the hospital or anything. And So I don't know. And it was too long ago before all the testing got good that it would even show up anymore. But I definitely got it this time. The
How's your sense of smell? You got it back?
So I did lose it for 2 days.
Same with me.
Yeah, but what was really weird was it was like almost this revelatory. I was walking through the kitchen, Carol was cooking, and I said to her, "Wow, that smells really good." I went, "Smell!" I was like, I could smell the food. I was like, "Wow!"
Yeah, I know.
It was like
I know.
born. It was kind of cool, actually.
I know. Okay, what was I going with this? Okay,
I was old or something.
Oh, what about your education, Mark? You went to college, university?
Yeah, I went to freshman year at George Washington University. Then I transferred to State University of New York at Stony Brook, where I graduated. I got a degree in history, and then it was nice. I got to give the commencement speech at Stony Brook a few years ago. They asked me to come back and give the commencement speech to the graduates. Anyway, all that aside, and then later in my life, I got a master's degree from Georgetown in national security policy. In fact,
national security.
National security policy.
Now, how is there a course on that? Like, what the hell?
It's out of the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown, and it covers, how the U.S. national security. I mean, budgets and the Constitution and the rules, and took classes on military strategy and history and all that kind of crap. But I am actually qualified to do a lot of the budget. Budget stuff is a big deal.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you that later. I'm leading up to that.
But and in fact, when I got the degree, I was 40. I graduated when I was 40. My kids came to my graduation, so just so you understand, it was much later in life when I got my graduate.
What happened between your I guess high school and your master's degree?
High school? Well, I went to university. I got out of Stony Brook in 1976.
Okay, so then you went to college, right?
No, college was 72 to 76.
Okay, I don't know the American system, for God's sakes. You guys are all messed
up. High school was, I got out of high school in 72, and I got out of university, you would call it. I know you guys call it university. I got, my college degree. I don't know how you call it that.
Yeah, we call it
1976 is when I got my degree.
You got your master's in 76 or when you were 40?
I got my Bachelor of Arts in History in 1976. Okay, my master's in Arts and Philosophy, whatever else college, from Georgetown was in 1994.
That's a long stretch between.
Life happens.
And
I got married, had kids, had a big job.
How did it feel to go back?
It was. I always tell people the reason I know that my wife is wonderful. She didn't leave me because when you're going to graduate school, and as I always tell people, I actually kept track of it. I read over 20,000 pages to get my master's degree. I kind of logged it just to see how much it was. And as my professor once said, it's only a lot of reading if you did it, and I did all of it. That's how I am. And I actually graduated with honors. So I mean, I tried. I actually did I don't do things half-assed. So I
guess you were passionate about it.
Well, I had two reasons. One, if I'm going to do it, and remember, I was doing it when I was working, and people thought I didn't want people to think like, oh, he couldn't handle graduate school. So I got it. I wanted it for just sort of personal edification, but also I've been giving my kids hard time about trying to get A's instead of C's in school. And so when my report card came back, if it wasn't A's, I was going to get a lot of and they got very disinterested in the fact that I was doing what I said I was going to do. So I mostly did it to make sure that I could walk the talk with my kids, but I did. So learned a lot.
Jesus Christ, you did it so you can hold guilt over your kids. Well,
I was trying to say, part of being part of being a role model in life is you gotta walk it, right? You can't just say it.
Yeah.
So if I'm telling them to get A's and I can't get A's, where's that going to leave me in that conversation?
Nowhere.
Now, the fact that I got A's eventually inspired my daughter. I'll give her that, and she got straight A's after that. My son, not so much, but he did well enough. He's doing very well. He's a father.
You know what?
That's old news. He's amazing.
The educational system doesn't work for everybody, and you know what I'm saying. But anyway,
he was a self-taught. He became a programmer. He self-taught himself how to be a programmer.
There you go. Because he did something he liked.
That's how he is. He just doesn't like the formal setting of school.
So between, if I got the dates right, Mark, between 1976 and your your 40th, when you were 40, you got your master's. Well, what did you do? Bum around?
No, I was working. I ran Victory Games in the '80s.
Right.
I started SPI, went to a defense consultant in the the very 1979 to like 81. Started Victory Games.
So you started SPI. You started SPI.
Mm-hmm.
And then you
ran out of college. Pretty much out of college.
And then you started Victory Games.
I first went to Washington, was a defense consultant for a company called BDM Corporation.
Sounds masochistic.
No, it was Braddock Dunn and McDonald. That's just what it stood for.
Ah, okay. I thought that was some sexual.
It's not BDSM. Is that what you're trying to?
Sorry.
Oh, God. Your lawyer works in I was going, what are they talking about? And I got it. Okay. No, it's called Braddock Dunn and McDonald. In fact, Joe Braddock, who was kind of a mentor and friend of mine, just recently passed away at like 5 or something like that. What a great guy. Sad to see him go, but he lived a good, healthy life. I'll give him that.
And Mark, I wanted to look. I'm sorry for the questions I asked before this interview. I'm sorry for the questions I'm going to ask now, and I'm sorry for the questions I'm going to ask in the future, Mark. But you told me once you can ask me anything you want. Yeah, I'm just not going to tell you anything. Right. So okay. So all of a sudden, 76. It's the year 76 again, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
You're working in a toy shop, right? You're making games.
Oh, you mean when I was at SPI? Yeah, it was great.
Right.
It was what I always wanted to do. Remember, I've been wanting to do this my whole life, so I was quite happy. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you're making games. Okay, that's what your dad taught. He's making games.
No, that's what my mother said. She goes, he's going to go to law school probably, but right now he's doing this game thing. It's very interesting. She never quite got it. That it was actually a real thing.
I'm not wrong. So, okay. So, one day you say, what the hell? I want to get a master's in some ridiculous.
No, that was more work. It was work related.
Work related?
It was work related because I was a very senior manager at this point. At 41, I was already fairly successful businessman at a place called Booz Allen Hamilton. And the government changed the rules such that without a master's degree, I couldn't even be in charge of my own projects.
But what about the grandfather clause?
Well, they had a grandfather clause for many, many years where 2 years of experience equaled 1 year of school. So obviously I've been doing it for so long, I was fine. And then they just decided to ungrandfather everybody.
Really?
That's what they did. So
did they pay for your schooling?
What's that?
Did they pay for your schooling?
Booz Allen did, yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I got to tell you something. My father, Stony Brook wasn't that expensive, but my father paid for my undergraduate. Booz Allen paid for my graduate degree. I've never paid for a penny of education in my life.
That's beautiful. That's like me. I never paid for a haircut in my life, but I'm gonna have to now because my wife doesn't want to cut my hair no more. So you see what I mean? Look. So okay, Mark. This Booz Allen Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you questions. You can say, sorry, I can't answer that, this and this and that. But I was told, because I was very apprehensive, so I got prepared for this interview. I swear to God.
Mm-hmm.
So Booz Allen Hamilton, they have many, many different categories. One of them is defense contract something, right?
Yeah, I ran a big part of I ran a 6,000 person organization in the defense business for Booz Allen at the end of my career.
So how do you do that? How do you run 6,000 people? Where did you start and what the hell's going on?
Well, first off, when I don't run 6,000 people.
No, I know what you're saying.
I put you first off. I've always been good at hiring people better than me because people better than me, which is easy to find, do a good job. And I'm not a micromanager. I just tell people this is what I need to get done, and they do it. And so I had a group of people around me, a staff that were phenomenal. They knew what I needed to do, and I basically talked to the senior manager. I did what I had to do, but that kept the thing humming along just fine. But But I'll tell you, mostly what I did when you have 6,000 people is pretty much, you know, as a lawyer once said, she wakes up every morning wondering which employee is going to find a new way to get themselves fired. You know, that's kind of, so I had, you always, when you have 6,000 people, I mean, there's multiple HR situations you deal with on a weekly basis.
But you didn't have to deal with that.
Sure I did. I mean, you know, somebody, you know, there'd be some client or one of my staff is, you know, I mean, just to be clear, I used to joke that I had a 4 and 5 record. You know, there was 4 sexual harassment suits and 5 marriages. You know, so you know, I had a young staff. They used to date each other, and you know, people, you know, I'm not a priest. You know, I don't care as long as it doesn't affect the business what they're doing. You know, and I used to get
that allowed?
Huh?
Was that allowed? Was that allowed to court your employee? I mean, both.
It's not
the people
illegal.
that work under you. Was it allowed?
No, nothing's illegal. It's America, you know. But you know, you have 2 people going out with each other, and you know, doing what couples do, and sometimes, and again, I have 5 of them got married. You know, that's what happened in the same exact situation. They broke up, and many of them broke up, but 4 of them broke up badly enough that there was, you know, one of them complained about the other one bothering them still.
Ah, Jesus.
Yeah, but that's, you know, that's, you know.
So what was your title, Mark, there?
I was a senior partner, executive. I was a senior partner. Executive vice president is the technical title. But
so
I was.
What the hell do you have to deal with HR for?
Because I had 6,000 people. What do you mean?
No, but you're senior partner.
Well, no, they don't. I only got it when it got bad. I mean, normal day-to-day stuff, I didn't touch it. You know, people got their reviews and people got their raises, and you know.
Okay.
I didn't deal with that crap, but when things went bad, you know, I always knew it was going to, I used to see lawyers on a daily basis over a lot of different things. Great people. I used to see the HR people covering like the next cycle, you know, here's what we get. You know, there's a lot of bonuses. I mean, a whole haggle of things to do on the HR side. It's just normal functions, just informing me what's going on. But when the lawyers and the HR people came in the same time, never good.
I got you.
And then we had to have an investigation, and they would tell me the results of the investigation, and then I had to decide what to do. You know, stuff happens. I never forgot. I had this one, both kids were freaking brilliant, a boy and a girl, obviously. Well, not obviously, but it was a boy and a girl.
Right.
And in this case, they broke up, and the boy complained, not the girl. And the girl was one of the smartest kids I had on my staff. And, you know, so I knew, and by the way, their offices were across the hall from each other. This was not a good situation once I knew about it. And so I sent her to the Pentagon. And a year later, I go to a meeting in the Pentagon. I sent her to a Navy job. And she was, like I said, this kid was brilliant all the way. And I get to the meeting in the Pentagon, and the room's full of admirals. And she's there, and she's a great kid. I know her, and say, how you doing? I don't want to say her name out loud because somebody will maybe figure it out. But great kid. And I'm talking, and I said, look, here's the situation. And it was a policy decision that had to be made. And so 3 admirals turned to her and say, what should we do? That's how smart she was. Yeah, so she was basically running the policy department for the United States Navy at the time. Because the admirals were turning to her and asking her what the right answer was. And then right in front of me, I was like, well, I made the right choice. I got her in a good place, and and she's still having, I'm sure, a very successful career. But
no,
you know, that's what I did.
Why isn't she admiral herself, for God's sakes, if she knows how to do all that shit?
Well, the answer is that, you know, remember at this point, she's already like 30 years old, and she didn't join the service when she was a young kid. You know, she was well past that point. But you don't have to be in the service to work for the military. You know, everybody has to get on a ship. But she was great. She was a very smart kid. But that's what I dealt with all the time. You know, this kind of.
So all these people that you dealt with, the majority, these are incredibly smart people. Smart people.
Look, I gotta be honest with you. When you're working in like a Booz Allen setting and all the other competitors,
right?
You know, everybody's pretty much everybody's college educated, pretty much. I mean, when I say pretty much, I mean like 99% of them, and probably 80% of them had graduate degrees. So they're very well educated people. And a lot of them had even beyond that, doctorates. So you're not dealing with, you know, you're just not dealing with dumb people, you know, uneducated people overall. So you get used to that. So everybody's pretty smart. I mean, that they're there for a reason. They know what they're doing, and if they don't, they move on. But for the most part, I think the staff there is just exceptional.
And what about mental health in I guess in your department? How many would you figure autistic people must have been there?
I don't know what you're saying,
because I seem to link autism with some sort of wicked focus and wicked smarts. You know what I mean?
I mean, people have said I'm on the spectrum. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. Look.
Well, I was gonna ask you, Mark, because you're smart, so you ain't normal. That's for sure.
I don't know that that's true. I mean,
you're not normal. Give me a break.
Well, my wife would agree with you, but not for the same reason.
No, and I mean that in a great way. You're not normal. I wish I had your brain power.
I gotta be honest with you. It's like in any job, people showed up. 99, let's say 98% of the people that I worked with showed up in the morning, did their job, went home at night, came back the next day, did it again, took weekends off. I mean, that's kind of what I dealt with. Then there's 2% that could have been all over the place. Who the hell knows? So
and it's funny. I mean, you probably don't hear this, but smart people like you, smart people like Volko, smart people like David Thompson, all these brains and all that. On behalf of all the dummies in the world, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you for talking to us like a human being, for not belittling us and talking down to us. Mark, you're a mensch. You understand that?
Thank you, but I got to tell you, you got some kind of weird view of the world. I don't know what to say to you.
Hey, no, man. I mean, we're
not talking. What you're talking to is, how old are you now?
I'm 10 years younger than you. That's it.
58.
Yeah.
Okay. So, at 68, I can look back at the arc of my life, and I'm just,
fuck, I'm doing that now.
Well, all right, it's a good time to do it. Yeah, keep going.
And then you know what I do? I look back, I sit down, I crack open a beer, light up a pipe, and I enjoy my life. How come you don't smoke a pipe, Mark?
Well, just for the record, I am surviving throat cancer, so smoking anything, I don't give a shit what it is, isn't going to happen.
Sorry, I didn't know.
No, that's not going to happen. And I do. Look, I drink. I've gotten hammered with you, so you know that I drink. So and I have the usual vices, but I don't overdrink, luckily, and I still love I love just reading and enjoying and watching football, and just a person. I don't know. And you've got this pedestal complex. I really think you should lose it.
No, man, I want to learn, and I learn from everybody. And
that's fine. That's how you learn. I learned from reading books.
I can't read.
Sure, you can read. I've seen you read.
No, I can read the bottle of scotch at 24%, but I can't. I'm.
Hey, what do you want to talk about now? So now we got off that topic. What do you want to talk about now?
Okay, so your Booz Allen Hamilton life, is that still happening?
No, I retired from corporate life November. No, not that's when I sold the house. March of 2014, I left corporate life, and I've been working self-employed ever since. Best decision I ever made in my life. Great, love it.
Self-employed. What do you do? Self-employed.
Have you not seen me? You talked about Pacific War, right?
For God's sakes. Okay, yeah, I get it. I get it. But I mean, you're not going to buy your new Ferrari by making Pacific War.
No, but that was the point of having a career first,
Right. Okay, I got you.
But I will say, by the way, the royalty money that I got over the early years of my career paid for several years of my daughter's college.
Yeah, I know, but you got like 50 games, for God's sake.
70, but that's close enough.
Yeah.
But most of those don't generate income. I mean, the vast majority of those 70 games are not in print. Every so often, somebody has asked me to put one back into print, like Peloponnesian War or Pacific War or whatever. But
yeah,
I was heartened to see that Pacific War was the best seller for GMT last year.
Well, you know what? There's a name that goes behind that, and it's called Mark Herman. So whatever Mark Herman's going to put out it's for sure a
Well, look, I like to
pre-sell.
I like to feel people know what they're getting. So my supporters are happy they're getting what they expect, and the detractors are upset that they got what they expect, and
You know
it
what?
doesn't really matter.
I remember when we were playing Fire in the Lake, but
Oh yeah,
and I remember,
it was Alexander and Grant were playing, right?
yeah, those guys, whatever their names are,
Yeah, it's
and
Alexander and Grant.
whatever. Those names shall not be spoken again. I'm
Oh,
joking.
I'm sorry to hear. They're great guys. I hope.
I love those guys.
they're
So,
great
and I
guys.
remember that you were my partner, and I think I had a few drinks under.
Well, so did
And-
I.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm shorter than you are, so it hits me faster. You know, it's got to go higher than the head. Me, it hits me faster.
Okay.
And so I remember after being your partner, I said, I gotta get myself a copy of Pacific War, and you said, nah, it's not free.
Don't do it.
You don't spend your money on that.
You look back at how I wrote about it, and I was absolutely, I don't design games. Just a serious now comment. I don't design games to the audience. I'm designing games that I want to design and I want to play. That is my audience, is me. And
you're a true artist.
Maybe, but
Yes.
That's what I do. And to me, my real metric of success is, For the People is being printed for the 5th time, and Empire of the Sun just had its 4th printing, and Churchill is having its 3rd printing, and there's others. But that to me says that the game has legs. People still want to play it and still want to buy it. Remember, Empire of the Sun came out in 2005. So that's, what is that, 17 going on 18 years ago.
God, really, eh?
Yeah. So the fact, and in fact, but just to be clear, I just saw a comment. I read all comments, by the way, and some guy wrote, when is somebody going to rewrite these rules so they're readable? Okay, so, there's plenty of people still, hacked off. There's always people who are hacked off about something. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
Why, are the rules ambiguous?
They're not in there. You know what it is? You were asking this earlier about simple games, complex. It is a intricate. I don't think the word complex is the right word. It's an intricate game. It's got a lot of systems that mesh with each other, and when you write that out, you write out the procedures for each of these mechanisms. But the integration of them is which I use the comprehensive example of play to show how it all integrates. Right? Here's how it all fits together. And I write designers up. I do everything I can. But in the end of the day, if your ability to integrate a very intricate set of mechanisms is not your forte, or you don't have the time, and I don't think it's not that the players, some people don't have the time, it's that an intricate game requires more than we're going to play it tonight once and see how it goes. That's just not going to work for one of my games. Now, just to be fair, not all my games are Empire of the Sun. I did Gettysburg, which has 19 pieces for C3I. You can learn that game in 10 minutes and play it and finish it in 30 or 40 minutes. So there's a game. So I did Waterloo for C3I. I can go on and on. I did Ribbon, a kids game. And so I have a lot of games that are not Pacific War, right? Or not Empire of the Sun. But they also, if you jump into the deep end of a pool, hopefully you know how to swim, or you're going to learn to swim, or you won't swim.
Right.
But I don't feel like I've given people a range of things that I do that makes me accessible only through what I call the intricacy of the game. So I have Gettysburg is not an intricate game; it's a beginner's game, and I still see people playing it and having a great time because it didn't. And it's more like what you were saying. I see like a guy my age saying, "Oh, I sat down with my son or my grandson. We played Gettysburg, and he loved it." There you go. There's nothing wrong with a less intricate game.
No.
Nothing
And
wrong with it.
was that purposely done that way? That game?
Yeah. Roger specifically said to me, "I would like you to do I guess some friend of Roger's, I don't know who it was, called him up and said, "How come you don't have any games for a beginner?" And so Roger called me up and said, "Could you do me a beginner game?" I said, "Oh, sure, I'll do a beginner game." And that was, and one of the things I thought I would never do was do the classics. I wasn't going to do Gettysburg
The
and Waterloo,
bulge.
which are, my first historical war game was Gettysburg by Avalon Hill. The 1960, I think I had the 60, I didn't have the original, but I had like the 61 or 62 version of it. Which
Bloody hell.
Yeah. Well, that's when I was a kid. Remember I told you. Remember American Civil War, Centennial, right?
Yes,
Remember all that? Yeah. Okay. So this was one of those games that came out of that. Avalon Hill came out with Chancellorsville. I didn't get that till many years later. But they also had one that I had gotten called The Civil War, which is we've got pawns. There's no pieces. It's a great little game, by the way.
Okay.
For what it was, and then there was this. The one that I played a lot is when I was really little was called Battle Cry. It was a Milton Bradley game. So, those games were what got me moving down this path. And so, could I have started off with like For the People? Probably not.
No.
No. I was 7. So like 6, 7 years old. That would be too much. So Roger wanted an easy game, and I know a couple of things about easy games because I've done. Remember, I did the original SPI Cross Suez, which was meant to be only had 40 counters. I mean, I've done small, and number of pieces matters, right? And conceptually, the rule you got to have like one, maybe 2 mechanics that drive the whole thing. Otherwise, you're starting to expand the intricacy. So I designed, and I realized that the best way. So I always wanted to do a Gettysburg game, but I didn't want to try to do 3 days of Gettysburg like Berg did. One of those big monster games with all the detail.
Yeah.
I said to myself, Berg already did it, and I don't know that I was going to do it better, and I didn't know what else to do. And look, I have an entire room of Gettysburg games. I mean, I love Gettysburg. I used to be on the board of directors, of the board of directors for the Museum of Gettysburg. So I mean, I've given tours of Gettysburg. There's not much about Gettysburg I don't know as a personal interest of mine. So I wasn't going to do some, grandiose, gigantic game because there were so many good ones out there that I just didn't need to do that. I didn't see the value of that. But doing a simple Gettysburg game, that all of a sudden intrigued me. So that's
I understand. I understand the challenge.
Yeah, and that's a more interesting. It was something worth doing, and I think I came up with something that I'm actually quite proud of. In fact, I like Gettysburg, but Waterloo to me is one of my favorite designs that I've ever done.
And I was going to ask you about that. Were there any designs that never came to fruition that you were very, very happy to have made?
Well, so if you go back, I found it back in the 90s. Berg and I were doing a giant ACW game, it was 4 maps and gazillion counters, and I even had a full set of rules to it. I mean, it was done. I mean, but we never quite. But it needed a lot of scenarios, and we hadn't tested it, and and I think the market wasn't really interested at the time in that kind of game. So it lay fallow, and I still have all the pieces. It was called War is Hell was the working title of it, but when I was doing Rebel Fury, while I'm doing Rebel Fury, I felt that the combat system, it's a division level game as opposed to a core level game like Gettysburg. I just felt the combat system was just a little bit too. It was very. It's the same one as Gettysburg. It was just too fast. It just didn't seem to it didn't add narrative to the game, which to me is important. And I went back to that War is Hell, and I took the combat system from War is Hell and brought it into Rebel Fury. So, in a way, and I really liked the combat system. Is why I really liked about that design. So, the combat system is going to see the light of day. And in fact, if you get the newest. This will be they're starting to ship this. My article, which is right here. So I actually talk about the combat result, the new combat results table in the C3I. So if you get this issue and you read my column, you'll get a pretty good sense of the new Rebel Fury CRT because the my column is about combat results tables this time.
Now, is there any negative reason why that game shouldn't see the light today?
No, it might someday. I don't know. It's not. It's funny. The thing that was wrong with the game before is I never liked the way that we activated units and did the player interaction. And I feel that the Gettysburg system actually gave me now, decades later, I actually have a mechanic I think that would work well in a big picture game. See, one of the things, I mean, you know who Surratt is, right? The famous artist.
Yeah.
Right.
Saru.
So when you go close to a Surratt or Surut, I don't know how to pronounce his name up French. What do you see when you get really close?
You see the strokes.
No, it's dots.
Oh, the pictolism. Yeah, like Colville. Okay, I got you.
Lots of dots.
Yes.
At the back, and it's a bunch of pretty Parisian couples walking in a park. Right?
Yes.
So when you do a monster game, sometimes a large game, sometimes the view is that you have to have this incredible detail that goes down, 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 and that's one way to do it. However, if you want it to play differently, you don't want them to see the dots, you want them to see the big picture. And so a big ACW game could just be a lot of work if it's not moving along at some level. So you got to have some kind of pace, narrative to the game. And I think that's the thing that the game never had, which maybe that's why I never pushed it too hard. I had to redesign it. And, maybe one day I will. Obviously, Berg's not going to do it with me, but I'll dedicate it to him if I ever get it done.
Well, you brought the topic, and it's great because I'll keep you on for another 15 minutes if that's okay, Mark.
Yeah, sure.
Us getting older, wanting.
I mean, we just lost John Prados, an old friend of mine.
Yeah. How old was John?
Huh?
How old was John?
He's not much older than me, but I would say he was 70. He was in the 70s for sure. I would guess he was mid 70s. I just don't know. I mean, that's about see, Berg and Dunnigan were 11 years older than me. Well, Berg was 11 years older than me always, but and Dunnigan's still 11 years older than me. Prados was somewhere between Berg and me. I don't remember exactly where, but he was older than me and younger than Berg. That's the way I would characterize it.
Yeah, in the music world and the rock and roll
world,
Crosby
and
Crosby and Jeff Beck.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, for God's sakes, these are influential people. But anyways, so okay, I'll say for me, I'm getting older, and I do want to get much simpler in what I don't want to program a VCR. I don't want to learn. I don't want to learn a new software. Get my iPhone already programmed and all that. I don't want to do that shit. It seems that you want to do that stuff, man. It seems that you revel in that, and that's what gets you going.
Well, I mean, I designed the game the way I want to design it, but you're talking about technology. I have a brilliant daughter, and when I have a technology problem, I go, Lara, Daddy's got a problem.
No, I know, but in your field, that's a game designing.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's like you're not getting simpler, Mark. You just put out the Pacific War, for God's sake.
An old friend of mine who I haven't seen in years, though I like him very much, a guy named Doug Watley, used to say, somebody would say to him, Mark just did a really complicated. He goes, just wait, the next one won't be. Rebel Fury is not a complicated game. See, Rebel Fury is the other way. I wax and wane on intricacy. So I would say that my current designs that I'm working on, most of them are Pacific War is like, I would put that in the category. I did that in 1985.
Yeah.
And it was the era where that's what people were looking for.
Right.
The fact that it got reprinted is, I've told that story. I'm not going to tell it again. But the point is it got reprinted. And it was a throwback. It's a dinosaur. However, going back to complexity, the one thing that Pacific War really is, though, is it's a game system. It's not people want to play. I keep getting guys who play 2 engagement stars. They want to play the strategic star, and they have a million questions. The answer is, you're not ready for that. It's not what. If you play the campaign and the battle scenarios, you're going to get 99% of the value of that design right there. If you want to play the big campaign, knock yourself out. But that's not what the game is about. And it never has more than on the board you might have only 4 or 5 mobile pieces in a campaign scenario at any given time. So there's not a lot of stuff on the map. It's a lot more of planning and moving, and it's that kind of game. And but it's by nature a very complex carrier war game, which is what it's supposed to be. Empire of the Sun actually was the version of Pacific War that I could play. And I wanted to play the war. You really can't play the war Pacific War, although you can technically if you're crazy.
I see.
But Empire of the Sun was the one that took what I felt was some of the best ideas out of Pacific War, but then I made a very different game. And that's the one to me that most people think is one of my better games. And so I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying that's what they think. And that's fine because I like it a lot. In fact, it's set up right over here, right to my right here.
You're playing it right now. Now, why, Mark?
I enjoy playing it. Here's the thing. I'll give you a different take on what you keep going. I would prefer. I'll be honest with you. If I had to pick 20 games, I could, and I gave up all my other games. I just kept those 20. I would just get good at those 20 games. That's kind of more the world that I grew up in, and I would be fine with that because. I mean, I learn and look at rules for all sorts of new games, and every so often one enters the rotation. But as a general rule, I don't play a lot of new games. I'm either designing new games or I'm playing games that I want to get. I want a game that's rich enough that I can get good at it. Is like playing chess. Like you can actually be if you play Empire of the Sun a lot, you can actually get good at it. I mean, and you will beat somebody who's not good at it badly. So skill matters. I like games where skill matters, and Empire of the Sun skill matters. Now that offends some people, and some people really dig it. I mean, it's just, some people want to, some people's idea of ideal game night is they get together and they play 5 different games in one night, and that's a game night. And in other people, they get off on the idea that they played one scenario of a game and it took them all weekend. That's another side of the spectrum. I would say that the people who want to play 5 or 6 games in one night is the mainstream, and the guys or girls who want to play one scenario over the weekend is the, like my good friend Bruce Garrick, that he would get off. Bruce would tell you that that's the right weekend. You play one scenario and you play the whole weekend, really get into it. And I agree with Bruce. That's what I want to do. But most people want to
Are you in touch with Bruce? Are you in touch with Bruce a lot?
So there was a time when I was in touch with Bruce a lot, and if I called him right now, he would talk to me. I like to think of us as friends, but he's a busy guy, and
no kidding, he's a busy guy. I've been trying to get an interview with this guy for the last 5 years.
Well, he's a freaking neurosurgeon.
Yeah, I know. So what?
And you might have heard that there was COVID. No,
I know.
I mean, poor guy. I mean, I was talking to him during the epidemic a couple of times, and he showed me a picture of me. This guy's walking around like in a freaking spacesuit, walking through a hospital and doing, extra COVID.
Oh my God!
Remember, COVID had a lot of, neurological effects for some people. I mean, he was a busy boy. He was a busy boy.
He was.
Yeah, he was a busy boy. You can tell he's busy because he was putting out all these videos, but he's obviously moved on in his life and is doing other things. He'll probably come back to it, but he's a great guy and smart.
I'm trying to get him. I'm trying to get him through the Scotch world. You know what I mean? I'm trying to, you know what I'm saying? For God's sake.
Anyway, Bruce is great.
What was I going with this? You were talking about empires. Oh yeah, okay. Mark, I always make a correlation between music and game designers because you are an artist. And the thing is, I see you as a Shostakovich type guy. Very loves technicalities. That's what he revels in, technique. And it's technique that drives you, man.
The greatest thing anybody's ever said about me, and to compare me to that guy. Come on.
I mean, for God's sakes. I mean, Rachmaninoff is a little bit too flowery for you, but Shostakovich.
Well, actually, now it's funny. Rachmaninoff was my mother's favorite composer.
But come on, that guy's wicked, man.
Yeah, well, sadly, I knew that when she was passing away, and there was no way around it. I just had him play Rachmaninoff 24/7 for her in her room because, that's all she couldn't talk anymore, and so at least she could hear her favorite composer to the end. That's what I did.
I'm personally waiting a little bit to hit the Russians hard because I've hit the Austrians hard, Mozart. I've hit a bit of the Germans hard. Bach, I've hit him very hard.
I'm actually personally a huge Beethoven fan.
You know what? He's starting to be redundant for me.
Well, he's only got no. You know what happened was I saw when I was a kid. I saw when it was in the theaters, Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
And after I saw Clockwork Orange, I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can listen to the 9th or the 6th.
The 6th is beautiful.
The
Beautiful.
6th, that's my favorite, and I love
It's
it.
beautiful.
You know, in the was it the Hallelujah chorus in the 9th? I mean, this stuff's brilliant.
Ode to Joy.
Ode to Joy, right? The Ode to Joy. I mean, I love.
And you know, Mark, you know that the yes. You know the Fifth Symphony, first movement. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, of course, that's almost old hat.
Now, do you know the skill that this guy had? It's only 2 notes. 2 notes.
And remember, da 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 da. That's only 2 notes.
2 notes. But I mean, it takes
notes
skill.
can be very.
And that's,
So you can either get Beethoven's Fifth, or you can get a shark. Either one.
But, and John Williams is something too. But anyways,
Yeah,
that's the type of
isn't he kind of considered like the best living composer of that style? You know, big symphony or big symphony.
John
composer.
Williams.
Yeah, he's like the god of that thing, isn't he?
He's awesome, man. I mean, the orchestration.
You can't
it's
even
just.
Yeah, he's off the scale, but he's like that kind of guy, right? You know.
He's a genius.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's got. You know what? He's got the years to prove that he's a genius.
Oh,
Unlike Mozart or Bach, who were born geniuses right off the bat. You know what I mean?
Well, go back to like look at Mozart, right? You know, he was playing harpsichord when he was 4, so obviously he was off the scale.
Yes,
but he had the time. That's all he ever did. I mean,
that's all he ever did.
Right, and so his skill set just was, but obviously off the scale. He was wired differently.
Well, Beethoven, the old man used to beat the shit out of him because he wanted him to be like Mozart.
Right, and that's why he lost his hearing, isn't it? But
I guess.
Well, that was how Amadeus, portrayed it. That he'd been beaten so many times that he lost his hearing.
Going back to what I think, you are a technical artist. You revel in that. I gotta get the right pressure, the right note, and I'm gonna play that note for 20 years till I get the right pressure and the right note. And
but you're making a point here. Pressure is important. You see, to me, I could get a gamer, all with all due respect, I could get a gamer to do anything if I give them a victory point to do something. Here, right. Go over here, you get a victory point. I can make them dance around the board any way I want. That's easy. I mean, that's like pretty bloody easy. But
it's boring.
What I want is what I do creates a pressure on you to come, and I want that pressure to cause you to do something that they would have done for obviously not the same exact reason, but that the pressure. The historical pressure is what causes you to do the historical thing, not that give you a bunch of victory points to run over there, which I can always do. I can always do that. That's war game design 101.
I'm not going to bust your chops anymore, and I just want to say that this interview, I wanted to get more of Mark Herman. Like Mark Herman, the human being. Why? Because our audience knows Mark Herman as the guy who did Ribbit. You know what I'm saying?
I'm very happy about that too, by the way.
I'm joking, but I wanted people to know, like Mark Herman, the reason why these games are so good is because blah, 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 blah. And, there's a process, man. There's a process.
Well, hopefully I can get it across in this book I'm writing.
Well, I hope so. And Mark, thank you so much for doing this, man. You've been very kind to me all the time. Like
I said, I'm hoping to get to WBC this year, but I definitely am going to get to Newport in August. Harold is holding a convention in Newport, and I love Newport. So,
where is Newport? Maine,
Rhode Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not that far away from here, man.
No, and you might want. It's 18, 19, and 20 August. And the reason I know those are the right dates is because the 20th is my wife's birthday. So I'm trying to talk her into, anyway, I'm going to have to figure out how to get from the convention to her on the 20th, or I'll be single again. You know, that there. And let me tell you something. When you're 68, the last thing you want, if you've been married for 44 years, you don't want to be single again. That's
I understand.
That's not going to work.
I understand.
It's not going to work.
Mark, man, you're a beautiful man. Thank you very much.
Thank you for finally working this out, and you know,
hasta la vista.
football.
Ciao.
Ciao, buddy.